So what were you like in high school? As a high school kid, there was probably an indicator of where your life was going to go, right?
Yeah. I think I actually ended up going the opposite way, despite everybody's disbelief. But yeah, life turned out pretty good.
You're 32.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of your money came from Vegas, from casinos?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you start with a nest egg or money or family money or anything?
So I was born into an affluent family, but I made every wrong decision along the way. Half of them were conscious decisions. The other half were just a byproduct of the choices I was making. And I was homeless for a long time, incarcerated, and started with nothing. I had moved to the Miami area, and I was a day laborer. I got a job for $100 a day. And one thing led to another, and I saved up every penny, and I started a business, and the business started to do well, started to grow. And I opened up a couple more, and the businesses did do well. I sold them and retired in my mid-20s, moved to Los Angeles. And when I moved to LA, I'd go to Vegas weekly just to gamble and have a good time. And I started winning. I started winning a lot. Started winning often.
Why were you winning? Everyone goes to Vegas to lose.
Yeah, I mean, gambling's like been embedded in my blood for many generations. I grew up in New York City card rooms. I've been a gambler my whole life. My whole family has. And so I'd say I was always like slightly above average as a gambler, but in the beginning I was just winning. I don't know, maybe I was lucky. And the more I was winning, the more I thought I should pay attention to what I had going on. And I started buying in a little bigger, winning a little bigger, and really focusing all my energy on how to be a better gambler. I ended up figuring out that the casinos cheat. They cheat in ways that most people are unaware of. And I reversed their cheats, and I became one of Vegas's biggest winners of all time.
So that's how you did it. You figured out what they were doing behind people's backs, and you outdid them.
Yeah.
How long did that go on?
It took 3 years of gambling, specifically in Las Vegas, before I got banned from 95% of the casinos in the world.
How did they ban you?
It came in all different ways. Some of them made up crazy stories. Some of them told me outright. But they came in all ways. They would either confront me in person, they would call me over the phone, they would send me an email. A lot of casinos don't reach out to me and say, hey, don't come into our doors. They'll wait till I show up. It'll be the first time I ever came to that particular casino. And when I get there, I get met with security, and they go, you're a sharp player, you're an advantage player, and we're not going to take your business.
That's legal?
Yeah, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want, unfortunately. A little unfair or unjust in my opinion, but they might as well just have a sign that says only accepting losers.
And you're not a loser.
No, I won pretty good.
How much do you think you won?
It was calculated something in the realm of $32 million.
Really?
Yeah.
In 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just from specifically the Las Vegas casinos. I play a lot of games in private settings as well.
And you hit all the big casinos, or
yeah, all of them. Yeah,
so
of
you'd
course.
go one and get they'd recognize you, and you'd have to go to another one.
Yeah, in the beginning they thought that it's impossible unless I'm cheating. So they go, he's just hot right now. He's lucky. Keep him coming back. Give him a private jet. Give him the Rolls Royce. Give him the Maybach. Keep him happy. And eventually he'll lose it all back and then some. And slowly they go, well, he's not losing it back, so he must be cheating. We got to keep him.
What was your game?
I won the most amount of money playing Baccarat. But it's probably only because they let me bet the most. They let me bet $250,000 a hand in Baccarat, where Blackjack, they only let me bet $75,000.
What are the limits in Baccarat normally?
20,000.
20,000. So they let you go higher.
They let me go to 250,000. Yeah.
Hoping that you would lose quick.
Yeah, lose bigger, faster, and harder.
Yeah.
But I won more, faster, and harder. Yeah.
What's it like when you at the end of a night and you've walked away with how much in a night?
So it averaged out, not for the whole 3 years, but for quite some time, almost to $1 million a week. But it didn't look like once a week I'd show up, win $1 million, and leave. When we became playing in the millions, when that became our buy-ins and cash outs, what we were really doing was we'd come in and we'd play. And my average buy-in was $3 million. And I'd put front money, a deposit of $3 million, either cash, like $100 bills, or a cashier's check. And for the $3 million, I had negotiations for a lot of things, including my betting limits. When we would play, let's say we won $3 million that week profit, I wouldn't come back for 3 weeks. Some weeks I'd win $5 million and then not come back for 5 weeks. I'd win $10 million, not come back for 10 weeks. 2 weeks, $2 million, not come back for 2 weeks. So it averaged out to be about $1 million a week.
Wow. So what kind of excuses would the different casinos use to get rid of you?
So one casino has a like super private, super high roller room on the second floor. It's called the Talon Club. And in the Talon Club, it's very quiet, which I like. It's quiet, it's private, no one can watch. And they have a lounge on the side. In the lounge, they offer like, free food and sitting and whatever. And they threw me out and they told me it's because I touched too many forks in the Talon Club.
That was you. That was what got you kicked out.
Yeah. So I gave them cash, and when you buy chips at the cage, they run all the cash there. But it was a lot of cash, so it took them a little while to count it. But you can see that cage from the Talon Club lounge. So I'm in the lounge getting food, and I just pop my head into the hallway and look to see if they're almost done running the cash. So I kept doing that back and forth, and security came and said that I touched too many forks and that I'm trespassed from their property.
And you were at all the big casinos, I'm sure.
Yeah, and one casino told me that I scared a pit boss, and for that reason they have to ban me. Another casino told me that I had a fight with the valet, except that during the time of the alleged event, I wasn't even in the state of Nevada. So I came to Nevada later that night. I went to Vegas, and I went to the valet manager who knows me, and I said, hey, do you mind if I record a conversation? And he said, go ahead. And so I started recording. I said, hey, there's like an allegation that you and I had a fight earlier in the day. Is any of this true? And he goes, I haven't seen you in weeks. And I knew it wasn't true. Like I said, I wasn't even in the state at the time of the alleged incident. And when I sent the video over to the executive, they just stopped communication with me.
Yeah. I mean, those big casinos run the city. So they're
They can do and say anything they want. Some of them don't have to give me a reason. One of them didn't. The vice president called me and he just said, stop coming in.
Is there something about your personality that makes this possible, or makes you likely to have figured this out?
Yeah, I think part of my upbringing or my history attributes to some of the characteristics that became applicable during my discovery of the cheating and how to reverse engineer it. I made a lot of those decisions away from like the support of my family when I was on my own. I was homeless pretty young and incarcerated pretty young, and I've lived on my own for a long time. And I think from that kind of lifestyle, I saw every type of con and cheat and steal that exists, in every nook and cranny of every type of street. And from that, I just saw things that I think these like suit-wearing, slicked hair, dressing guys weren't prepared for me to understand or recognize, and probably on a level way beyond them. And I was also brought up my whole life in some association with the Italian mafia, and gambling was so thick around me that the development of games were developed by a lot of the made men that I knew as a child. So it was a pretty open discussion about the capabilities of what casinos and casino technologies can do.
So is your view that the world is kind of rigged and you just have to figure out a smarter hustle?
I think 100%.
Yeah.
I think you can either choose to oblige to the game that they set the rules to, or you can fight against it. But when you fight against it, you're going to be met with an equal and opposite force.
Yeah. So now you're at a point where you're financially secure. You don't need to make millions a week.
Sure, but I wouldn't turn it down if an opportunity came.
Sure. No, of course. But what are you doing with your time now?
I'm in a lot of TV shows and movies now. I spend a lot of time in the Hollywood scene, creating and producing even more shows than I'm in, and I've been really enjoying that. I spent a lot of time teaching people how to gamble. That became like a thing as I started getting banned from the casinos. Out of pure boredom during the pandemic, I started social media, and I went pretty viral pretty quickly. I started getting picked up by a lot of hip-hop artists and hip-hop focused channels and asking me to give advice or be around. And in the beginning, I thought it was so cool because these are some like my childhood heroes, like sliding in my DMs like, hey, can I fly you to Vegas? Or hey, I'm in LA, come to my birthday party, or whatever it is. And so a lot of them were like, hey, we're going to Vegas. We have new money. We're lighting the money on fire on the tables. We get our appearance fee for a concert, and then we turn immediately and the show's done and just lose the money. Do you want to come with us and maybe help us mitigate some of the losses? Give us a chance to win. And so I said, yeah, I would do that. So I started teaching a lot of people how to play and beat the casinos. And then that became a bit of an issue too. So what I do now is I gamble under the guise of unknown gamblers. I fund 100% of their betting, so they have no exposure or liability to a loss, and I give them a piece of all the earnings. We split all the profit. And I promote it through my Instagram. There's like a link. You just like fill out the link. It's pretty simple. There's a very heavy vetting and qualifying process, but if you meet the requirements, I fund all your betting, and we split the profits.
You figure out hustles that are
I want to beat
unknown.
I'm a professional gambler, and I'm gonna gamble, and I'm gonna win.
Is there something about risk and the adrenaline that this all brings that is that's your drug?
I don't know. I think I see a lot of this as a game, and I'm very competitive. I like to win. So even when they think that I'm not allowed to be in the race anymore, I still find a way to get a winning horse in it, you know?
Yeah, you're not going to be kept down.
They can try.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is not being liked, not being wanted or accepted, and that all this in life was for nothing.
I mean, is there meaning in your life? Or, I mean, because, gamblers, I've always looked at professional gamblers as like, what an empty existence. They're not contributing anything to the world. They're just kind of like, they're good at gambling, and that's a great skill. But ultimately, their lives are empty. Pretty empty, it seems.
I don't disagree. I do a lot to give back. I built a school, K through 8th grade. I am one of a particular Chabad's biggest donors. I built a synagogue. When I die, the majority of my estate will be donated to charity, specifically the Innocence Project. I would say I do what I can to live a fulfilling or wholesome life. Every trip I take to Vegas, I go to the underground city and I feed the homeless. And these might be small things, or maybe in comparison, even big things.
Some of these are big things.
I'm not sure how much of a dent those things will really make. I just know that the more energy I put towards it, it could only be a good thing, even if it's on a small scale. And I try my hardest. I also discourage gambling. I think gambling is a very sinful, dirty, evil world to live in. And I agree, but I could also say that, or we could say that about any profession, even outside of gambling. Talk about a banker. It's the most simple, plain job. What are they doing to be fulfilling or give back?
Yep.
I don't know.
I'd agree with that. Those good deeds that you're doing impact your self-worth, your self-image. It makes everything you're doing, the lifestyle you're leading, kind of okay in your mind, right?
I would say out of the people that I know in my position, I probably do more wholesome, pure, or selfless things than the majority of them. And I think that allows me to justify a lot of my inappropriate or selfish or self-seeking behaviors.
Yeah, you're a bad boy and a good boy at the same time.
I do my best to stay on the good boy side.
Do you have any regrets?
Oh, man, a whole ton of them.
What are some? You probably have a lot of regrets.
I would start by saying one of my bigger regrets is getting tattooed. I've been removing my tattoos for 5 years. I'm going to continue to do so. You think I look crazy now. You should have seen what I used to look like before I cleaned up my act.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I regret not being better to my parents when I was a kid. I regret not going to school. I regret hurting people. I regret the crimes and stuff like that.
How far did you go in school?
I didn't. In 10th grade, I went to juvenile prison for a while and never really went back. I taught myself and took my GED and SATs while incarcerated. I did pass my GED. While still incarcerated, I was on a parole violation, and I applied to 5 universities, and I got accepted to all 5 of them. They didn't know that I was in a state facility. What I was doing was I would send all the paperwork to my grandfather's house. He would repackage it so the stampage came from a residence, not the Department of Corrections, and he would be the aggregate between the universities and I. And they did all 5 accept me, but I couldn't get re-paroled in time.
Do you think you'll be living this lifestyle the rest of your life?
I think every day something comes up that changes the direction of my life or my lifestyle. And I think if you were to look at my life a year ago in comparison to what it is now, it's almost like two different people. And nothing drastically has changed in the last year. You know, I just think as I go through life and I find new hobbies or new interests or new direction, you know, I evolve around it, you know, for the betterment of whatever my new goal is.
And that makes your life rich rather than the money. Yeah.
Enriched.
Yeah. Is risk a part of your philosophy here? I mean, you seem, you're not risk averse.
I'm not fearful of risk.
Yeah. Some of us see risk as perfectly sensible and appropriate in most situations.
I feel that from a lot of the dark stuff that came in my past when I was younger, I feel like I faced such grave consequences on so many occasions that when I look at the risk reward factors now, the biggest risks I have today don't even step into the realm of the risks I used to take with no upside back then. So now it's like the worst that I can do is be better than the worst I was, but look at the upside I can have.
What was your childhood like that kind of led you down this path?
My super young childhood was great. I have great parents, always had great parents, great grandparents, great family. Everything was good as a very young child.
Were you the black sheep?
I was the black sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I did sports. I raced motocross. I was an amateur motocross champion. I did a lot of great things. And then I started, I wouldn't use the word rebelling because I wasn't rebelling from anything. I don't know. I just didn't feel like this cookie cutter life from the suburbs was the one. I just thought there was so much more, and I would just push any limit I can to see like how far things in life can go. And it started pretty young. I started getting in trouble very young, and when you get in trouble, you get entered into a different life with different coping mechanisms and different lifestyles and different types of people. And the more trouble I got, the more the lifestyle around it evolved to be darker and more sinister.
Did your parents disapprove of you at some point in your life?
Yeah, when I want to say 13 or 14, I was a really tough kid to raise. And my parents, again, were so loving. They still are, and they're great parents. But I had just wring them dry of all their resources. And they told me that. And they said, hey, like, we've tried everything that we can think of and more. We're incapable of giving you the help you need. At this point, we have to protect and save whatever piece of the family is left. And they gave up the ability to raise me, and I got passed around quite a bit. I would say I got passed around more than my ex did. And whoever wanted to take a try raising me tried, and ultimately it was just myself.
But at some point, maybe 10 years later or so, you became a different person.
Yeah, when I was...
And did your parents see you differently then?
No.
They didn't. They didn't.
No, because my parents saw me since I was a child and growing into like a teenager and even like a young adult be a very troubled person. You know, I was incarcerated a lot and I was in trouble a lot and I was like almost unhelpable. So how can even 10 years go by with very little contact of me, and then I call them and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we believe you on the first phone call that you're a different person than we've known you to be your entire life. So a lot of years went by of me just knowing that my parents are out of touch with me, you know, straightening out and just carrying on in the right direction because it was best for me and it made me happy and it was good for me and those around me. The changing moment with the relationship with my parents was I was winning something like $6 or $9 million, and I called my dad, and I go, hey, Dad, I'd love to fly you to Vegas, you know? I just want you to see what I'm about. And I had tried explaining to him when I was in business and I owned these companies, I'd flown him down to Miami and I tried to take him on a tour of all my offices and my warehouses. And I watched him just not really engage. It was almost like too grandiose for him to even come to terms with. And he really just sat on his phone and stayed in the car. We'd pull up to like my headquarters office. I'm like, Dad, you want to come inside? I'm going to wrap some stuff up. And he goes, no, I'm just going to wait in the car. And I was like, I don't really get it. And it's a little disheartening and discerning, but it was what it was. And then fast forward, call it 5 years after that, and I'm in Vegas and I'm winning whatever it was, 6 or 9 million, or I don't know. At this particular moment, I called him and I go, Dad, I want to fly you to Vegas. I just always want to have you out, you know? He goes, all right, no problem. When he lands on the plane, he gets picked up in a Maybach. When the Maybach arrives to the front door of the casino, the vice president had opened the door and greeted him and said, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm the vice president. And my dad's looking, I'm standing there, my dad's looking, and he's a little confused maybe, but didn't fully process what was happening. And the vice president walks my dad and I up to my presidential suite. It's like 8 bedrooms, indoor pool, 2 gyms inside, and it's just me and my dad. And there's butlers in there when we walk in, and I say, we talk to the vice president just for a second. Vice president's like, oh yeah, Mickey's this and your son is this and all this, and it's great to have you guys and what have you. And I ask everyone to leave, butlers, vice president, everybody. It's just me and my dad. And we start talking, and I'm seeing my dad looking around the suite and the villa, and he's like, where are we, And I go, we're in my hotel room. What do you mean? And he goes, what's going on here? Why did the vice president meet me? Why did I get picked up in a Maybach? What's happening? And I go, well, Dad, I've been trying to tell you, for the last quite some years, I've been doing pretty good in life. And he wasn't really grasping it. And he goes, so what are you doing this week that you have me in Vegas? And I go, nothing. I just wanted to bring you out. Right now I'm up, however many millions. And he goes, what? And I go, yeah, right now I'm winning. And again, I forget, it was 6 or 9 million, whatever it was. And he goes, no way. And I go, yeah, for sure. I go, I'm not done. We're in the middle of the week here, but yeah, so far. He doesn't believe it. So I call the vice president. I said, can you please come back upstairs? And the vice president comes in, and I go, can you please tell my dad how much I'm up on this trip? And he goes, he's up $6 million this trip. My dad's like, really? And I go, can you please tell him how much I'm up on the quarter? And he goes, on this quarter, he's up 15 million. I can you tell him how much I'm up for the year? And he goes, well, for the year, he's up, 21 million. And my dad was speechless. I said, thank you. And the VP walks away. And my dad looks at me and he goes, I don't get it. What's happening? I said, let me take you on a little tour. And I took my dad on a tour of what my life looked like in Vegas. I was living in the top floor of another building on the Strip. And there was maybe 200 or so people in there. It's the middle of the day, and they were just partying. And the way you would enter the villa I was living in the other building is there'd be an elevator through a private entrance. And when you get into the elevator, which you could only get in with my access, it would go up one floor because all this elevator served as an entryway to my villa. The door would open, and that was my front door. And once the elevator door opens, you're now in my villa. And I had told some very famously successful friends of mine that they can use my villa that afternoon. So they had 50 fully nude, very attractive girls surrounding the front door area because they were doing body paint and black tape on their bodies because they wanted to use these girls for a party they were going to throw in my villa that night. So the door opens and I'm with my dad and he sees all these incredibly attractive naked girls and he just couldn't figure out what was happening. And one of the staff from the event came up to me. The girl was just an employee. She didn't know who I was or anything like this. And she goes, hey, I'm sorry. This is a private location. You can't be here. And I go, no, I think it's okay. I think I could be here. She goes, do you know somebody? And I go, yeah, me. This is my spot. And everybody came up and greeted me. And my dad got to witness all this. And he spent the week with me. He actually flew his business partner in just because he couldn't believe his own eyes. And his business partner, Pete, came in. And they spent the week, I gave him the car, I gave him the Maybach, and I said, just enjoy yourselves. I'm going to have the driver take you wherever I think you want to go, and you'll be a part of the party, and you'll hang out with me, and I'll show you my life. And ever since then, things have been different with my family.
Yeah, I'll bet. That'll make a dad proud.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The lifestyle that you were leading, or maybe still are, tell me about that. Because even the VP of the casino you know deep down he's just trying to get his money back.
Yeah. So
He's not your buddy.
no, no. I
and the girls are there for what reason?
Yeah, I was never fooled by the glamour of Vegas. I was never fooled. I think like I said earlier, like I've seen so many cons and so many finesses, and when you grow up like in the street culture and in the underworld, you see a lot of these things happening in a weird level. Like on this show, I know you have a lot of people that are like sex workers, for example, right? Now, a lot of Johns are like pretty standard men, right? They live a very mundane life and they're regular guys and they work 9 to 5 and they don't see a lot of the underworld stuff. But behind that, there's so many layers that sex worker and the sex workers group is going through and utilizing to extract the most amount of money from the most amount of Johns. But to a John, they only see it at face value. They arrive, they see an attractive woman maybe, the woman says a couple of words and they have a transaction. The John has no idea what took place behind that. But because I came from that life, I've seen every back end of every finesse and con there was. So when I entered the Vegas world, I said, these lights don't fool me. I said, I've seen all types of lights. And I've seen all types of people and all types of con artists. And I knew right away when it comes to the casino staff what I was dealing with. I was taught by the mafia what was happening. I was taught by guys that invented some of the tools that are used in casinos to this day. Some of those guys raised me when I no longer was with my own father. A lot of those made men took a hold of me as a young kid and said, we're going to help groom you. And it's going to, we're going to teach you what we've learned now. And these were 40, 50, and 60-year-old made men teaching a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid and continue to do so.
In what city?
This was in Central Jersey. I don't want to say the name of the city, but it was in Central Jersey, and then I moved to New York City pretty young. And I had grown up in New York City, and then I moved to Miami. And from Miami, where I lived 8 years, is when I moved to LA and Los Angeles. LA and Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without that upbringing, you probably wouldn't be the person you are today.
I can't imagine. I probably would have been just like everybody else, and there's no shame in this, but I probably, just like everyone else, would have fell victim to this mirage of a con that Las Vegas is. It was built to take advantage of your average working class person. And if I had been an average working class person, I don't see how I would not have been taken advantage of equally.
So now you go through your life having all this wealth and these people that are hangers-on, basically. Do you see through all that?
Yeah, it's super easy to see through most. I can't say I don't get tricked sometimes and I still don't learn. There'll be something new that comes up, a new this, a new that, a new style, a new angle that I have never seen before. But I have a theory about people. I think there's only X amount of types of people and a couple of outliers. And I think within each tier of person, you can have, the top of the tier, the bottom of the tier. And I think really quickly, the first few moments, you can see the characteristics that would put any person in one of these people categories. And once you know a category you're therein, you know exactly how to address them and how to guard yourself. So it becomes really easy to gauge people if you look through this like mathematical scale.
What would you say is your greatest strength?
I think I would, if I had to say one, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I have so many great strengths or that I'm so this or so that, but it might just be that I'm a little bit of a creative thinker.
But you think differently. You're not a conformist.
I'm not a conformist, but that also is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, there's a lot of downside to that as well.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be in 10 years?
I like to see myself in a lot of movies, creating a lot of movies and TV shows and acting in them. The acting part's been pretty fun so far. I'm not really sure exactly.
Who are your heroes growing up? Who do you look up to?
It's mostly Italian gangsters. I liked all like the infamous ones were always interesting to me. I just thought it was like, in a world that's built to prevent crime, to be that successful at crime, you have to be that successful of a person, I would say it's easier to be successful following the law than it is by going against the law. And some of these guys did such great feats as criminals that imagine what they could have done if they were legitimate.
What was the best time of your life so far? What's been the most enjoyable period?
I'm not sure.
Just winning all that money, when you're making, millions a week?
Nah,
That's not it.
no, it wasn't it. There was a time when I wasn't making money, and me and my two buddies and my girlfriend, we got a house together in the middle of nowhere, and we spent just 9 months in this house just acting a fool. We had found a little life hack, and we didn't really have to pay bills. We didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. We just got to live, and we were living as big kids, and we just destroyed everything in our path, and we rode dirt bikes every day, and just we never knew what time it was. We never knew what day it was, and for 9 months we just did anything we wanted. It was a lawless land, and it was just really fun. It was an awesome time.
Sounds fun. What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life, Mikki?
I'm not sure. I think that I'm still learning every day, and I'm still looking for the golden answer to life and to my problems and whatever. I guess.
Do you have problems like everyone else has problems? 'Cause
Yeah.
people will hear your wealth and be like, oh my God, this guy's got no problems at all.
Well, it's all different types of problems.
Yeah.
And I certainly have problems. And I have all types of problems. And some of my problems are really big and really hard to solve. And some of them are unsolvable. And other problems that maybe some people think are the biggest problem in their lives could be solved by money. But when they solve that problem, they don't realize there's a bigger problem waiting across the way. And the bigger problem doesn't get solved with money. And when you have a problem that can't get solved with money, and all your whole life was built about getting money, then you don't know how to solve that problem, and then you're in a real bad spot.
And back to my question, the most important lesson you think you've learned in your life?
I'm not sure. I think the most important lesson I learned is that nobody really has your best interest except for you. If you need something done, you're going to have to do it yourself.
Trust is hard to find.
Even those you trust, even the people that you trust the most, you can't assume that they're so prepared to consider every implication of every piece of the future of a single decision in your life that they will make the right decision on your behalf. They can only make, at best, the right decision for your immediate result.
Interesting. All right, Mikki Mase, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you live a very interesting and fun life from here on out.
It's been a good time so far.
Yes, sounds like it.